Hi, my name is Steve Rahi. I am a cloud solutions architect focused on management technologies. Today's discussion is the fourth installment in our series describing the various components of the Intune suite. The focus of today's series is on advanced analytics. You see that I'm putting device query in parentheses. I'm going to cover all of the different pieces of advanced analytics that are unique to the Intune suite. But my main focus most time is going to be spent on device query because it's the one that in my lab is easiest to demonstrate and probably the biggest one to talk about. The others are pretty much equally important, as you'll see, but this one is where we'll lead off. So here's the agenda. You see the focus is on device query. And so what is device query? Well, for those that are familiar with Configuration Manager, device query is akin to CM Pivot, right? In Intune. It provides on-demand, real-time ability to query your Windows systems to learn about certain configurations, data, right? The real idea is that with this, you don't have to wait for reporting to come back. You don't have to rely on the end user to be there for troubleshooting. You don't need to do any of that. You can go and query the device for information that's relevant very quick, very real time, right? It's not instant, but it's within seconds, as you'll see. The data that comes back is really rich. My lab is pretty boring. It just has one machine that I'm going to test against. But imagine if you had an array of machines that you needed to go investigate a few, right? Now, by what I just said infers that you can apply device query against a group of machines. That's not true. It is an individual machine thing. But just imagine if you had more than one system that you had in a deployment or in, you need to check configuration or whatever. Device query is a very easy way, quick way to be able to do that and then also know real time the situation on that machine versus waiting for reporting and so forth. The query language is really pretty easy to get your mind around, especially if you're familiar with CM Pivot, SQL, those kind of things. It is KQL. So you'll see a few examples of that here coming up. Why do we care? Well, as mentioned, troubleshooting is one very key thing. It's a way to get your hands into systems right away when you deploy configurations versus waiting on the console to refresh or whatever else, right? A way to extend yourself beyond just what you can see in the console. Another key thing is it is very near real time. Our documentation calls it real time. I hate to call it real time because it isn't press a button and here's your data, but it kind of is, right? Again, you'll see it just takes a few seconds to get the answers back. Okay, so device query and advanced analytics in general requirements. What are they? Well, you definitely need to have your device in endpoint analytics already, right? So that's why I'm going to focus my demo today on one device because I really only have one device in endpoint analytics. You need to have the appropriate permissions and a supported version of, in this case, Windows, right? So how does it work? So this is a simplified diagram I'm put together to kind of give a sense of the data flow. You'll have your IT admin up here. You'll create your query up here on the Intune portal. That query will go to the device query service, which will then use Windows Notification Service, WNS, on the device to say, hey, device, you have some action to perform. Now, there's some more internals that go from that point that I'm leaving out, right? But essentially, at that stage, Windows Notification Service is going to deliver that information, or I guess I should say through this process, Intune Management Extension is going to be invoked to actually do the querying and then return all of that information back up to the Intune portal, right? Again, this needs to be near real time, and there is no mechanism through normal syncing, for example, either syncing through MDM or syncing through the Intune Management Extension, or syncing through the Intune Management Extension to cause the device to immediately, get this config. So we use Windows Notification Service, which does, tell the device, do this, right? And that's how it works. Again, simplifying this to a large degree, there are some other details in here that I've left out, but it hopefully gives you a sense of how it works. And then when it comes to troubleshooting this as an admin, really the key component that you're going to care about is Intune Management Extension. So I'll show you in the logs how device query is visible. And that said, let's actually go and look at device query. So what I'm going to do is pull up the Intune portal. And the first thing I'm going to do is go over, sorry, I was doing something else in this a bit ago. Go over to reports. Reports is where Endpoint Analytics lives. We're going to come back over here in just a minute to look at some things. But the key thing here, Endpoint Analytics, I want to show you right now, is that I do have this one device listed in Endpoint Analytics. So I'm going to go look at my device scores, perhaps, and this will show me my devices that are in here. This one is kind of in here, but it's really not. This is the one I'm going to be using for testing. So the only ones that you can do device query on are the ones that are listed as a part of Endpoint Analytics, right? So I'll come back to this window here in a bit. So I'm going to go do device query. So the idea here is that I'm going to want to go to a device and query it to learn more detail about whatever it is that I'm investigating. So I'm going to go pick this device. Here it is. This is the -2 device, which is what I care about. And then over here, actually, let me resize my window real quick. One of the reasons why is if you have a window, even at 100%, depending on monitor size and whatever, in my case, I'm just on my laptop monitor, you may not be able to see your query results when you run a query. So if you run a query and you don't see the results and it all looks scrunched down and whatever else, then just try to adjust the scale, right? So on this device, I have device query. And when I first looked at this, I thought, look, I can drag and drop these things. I can, drag over here or whatever, and maybe there's a right-click menu, and there's not. And so I thought, well, that's interesting. Would be nice if I could actually drag and drop and do some things, but I can't, right? What I can do is query using, these are all of my supported attributes, right, that I can query against. If you expand, you'll be able to see all the different fields that you can pull back and so forth. And so what I'm not going to do is sit here and bore you with query after query after query. But what I am going to do, and this is going to flash the virtual machine back and forth a couple of times, so apologize for that. But to save time making you see me type over and over, I'll just go copy and paste from some queries I have available. So I'm just going to paste this in. So this is, again, Kusto query language. It's going to look at BIOS info and get this particular detail. So I'm going to run this against my machine, and we'll see how quickly the results come back. And we're running the query. And there it came back, okay? Took a little bit longer than normally it does in my experience, maybe because it's the first time I'd just woken up my virtual machine and so forth, but you can see the detail down here that came back, right? And I can just keep going. Maybe I want to look at the certificates that are on a device, right? And I'll just do a few of these. So let's go back to the Intune portal. And so instead, let me adjust this query to where I'm going to look at certificates. And let's run that one. All right, there we go. So again, that's why I don't like to say real time, because it isn't real time, but it's pretty darn close, right? To me, real time means you click the button and instantly you have the data back. In my experience, it doesn't happen that quick, but as I mentioned, within seconds, and it does work pretty nicely. So you can keep on going. maybe, I don't know, maybe there's one where I want to get file info. So let me go grab that one. And here I'm just going to look at the Intune Management Extension logs and see, right? So let's go run this one. Paste this in and go execute it, run. And query results come back. There we go, right? So we have some detail back and so forth, right? And then I'm just going to do one more. I can sit here and do query after query after query. Don't want to do that to you, right? But let me do this one more where we're looking at a Windows registry key as an example, right? And so back to the portal, and here we go. So looking at that reg key. Now, this is not a tutorial on how to use KQL or whatever, but hopefully by just looking at these queries, you can see that KQL is not maybe that difficult looking, right? It's really not, right? So we get the data back here. I'm going to resize my portal so you can see what I mean. Look at this. If I'm up at this level, which sometimes I am on my laptop model, I don't see anything. Maybe I scroll down, but it's like, where are the results, right? And I don't see them if my monitor or my Zoom level is a certain way. And so just be aware of that, right? And so I'm not teaching you KQL. I do want you to see that it's not all that difficult to understand. And just with the few queries that I've shown you here, the power of being able to go get this information as you're troubleshooting your environment, as you're trying to figure out detail about a machine, there's a tremendous number of supported operators here that will help you as you go through and need to troubleshoot various issues, right? I know there are other tools out there that do this same kind of thing. And that's not to take away at all from any of the other tools. There are some really good tools out there that do similar. But having this ability in Intune is just another tool in your tool belt that you might prefer to use in certain circumstances, right? So not a bad thing to have in your repertoire, so to speak, as you're trying to use Intune to manage your devices. All right. So let's minimize the portal and continue on for just a minute. So in terms of, again, focused on device query, in terms of tips and tricks, right? Just be aware in your query, right, there are some limitations. You're not going to see them here, right? But there are some limitations. You can get some really, really complex queries. And if you have a hit on the input string of more than 2048 characters, that's, at least as of my testing, this is a limit that you have. The result string is limited to 227 kilobytes worth of data. And as I say that, I recall a conversation where I don't think we have that anymore. So I don't believe that one is true any longer and such, right? I also mentioned that this does run through Intune Management Extension. And so let me show you the device I was just querying. Here is the device I was just querying. And so if we look at Intune Management Extension logs, this PC, and then program data, and then Microsoft, and then Intune Management Extension here, and logs, right? Then we have the Intune, there's a number of logs here. The one we care about for device query is the Intune Management Extension log itself. I do have word wrap turned off. And so what I'm going to do is just scroll to the bottom. And what you're going to see, you already see it, Intune pivot, right? You see all of that detail around when we executed a query. I executed a number of queries, right? So here's another set of Intune pivot, options and so forth. Let me get rid of that. And so you can just read through that what's going on with Intune pivot and different queries and so forth, right? That we can go through. Let's see if anything stands out. Anyway, so for those that come from the config manager mindset, having logs is an amazing thing. to be able to see what's going on, to learn about what's going on, and so forth. And we'll just point to that. You can read it through line by line if you would like later. Right? Okay. So I'm going to get rid of that VM. And that really is the end of device query. Last thing I'll say about it before we shift ideas is that when you're building your query, be careful. Don't use any kind of secret information in your query window that just know that it's going to be going across the wire. Is it secure? Or do we have secure communications? Yeah, we do, but still not a good idea to put that on the wire and so forth. Okay, so that's device query. Now, there are other pieces of advanced analytics that you're going to get if you purchase the Intune Suite. One of those is custom device scopes. So custom device scopes is the ability to slice and dice your reports in endpoint analytics based on a subset of devices. You can basically see scores, insights, recommendations, yada, yada, specific to a set of devices. So let me pull back up the Intune portal and show this to you. And that's valuable, right? So I work with a very large customer day-to-day, and they use endpoint analytics, and they do want to see the results based on a set of devices and so forth that they have grouped around their enterprise. And so having this ability is going to be pivotal for them to be able to group things the way they want to. So let me go to endpoint analytics. And so we support device scopes with several of these areas. I'm not going to show you every one. I'll just show you several. But like startup performance, we support it here. Work from anywhere, you can use device scopes. Application reliability, you can use device scopes, and battery health as well. So let's just pick startup performance. It's at the top. Why not, right? And so what you see is the device scope here is all devices. Well, if I click on it, I can choose my device scope that I want. Well, I haven't created any, so I only have one. But if I want to go create one, I can do that here. So here are any pre-built device scopes. So if I want to use one of these, then I can enable it, here, whatever, right? If I want to go build my own, then what I would have to do is just add the scope tag. So you see this is grayed out, is by default scope tag equal. So this is scope tag driven, right? So I'm going to go select a scope tag. This will be my device scope that I can use to filter my view, and then I'm going to save it. So I'll give it the name demo device scope. All right, I can hit OK, and now I can go save it. Sorry, that process. Then I can turn it on, right? So now that I've turned this on, it can be used in my reporting to group my data, right? So now if I go look at scope tag or device scope, it's in the list, right? So right here. Anyway, all right, so device scope is certainly a nice capability that you get along with Intune Suite for Advanced Analytics. Anomaly detection, right? So anomaly detection is going to monitor the health of devices in your organization for user experience, productivity regressions, maybe after you do a config change, whatever. So normally the way that things happen in an organization is support teams learn about a challenge only after the users become aware. With anomaly detection, you can actually proactively go look for any kind of particular challenges. So the anomaly detection is going to be on the overview tab. Let's go back to the Intune portal. That's endpoint analytics. And actually the overview, overview here. And then probably in my lab, I don't have anything. So anomalies will be, that's where it is, by the way. I don't have anything. And I expected that because it is, after all, my lab with one machine. So I do have a couple of screenshots from our documentation that kind of show, that after you do a deployment, there might be some different things that show up that might be going on to be aware of. There could be, drilling into a particular detail, what that means and, how it's grouped out and different things, right? Here's more about, digging into that particular thing, device list, so forth, right? So pretty cool thing. Anomaly detection, that went through that very quickly because I can't demo it, right? All I can do is show, or at least in my lab, I don't have any demo that's coming back because these systems are just not really used except for certain things in testing and so forth. For endpoint analytics, advanced endpoint analytics, we also have something called enhanced device timeline. So device timeline is actually something that was first introduced with Config Manager tenant attach, but it was then moved over to endpoint analytics available through Intune. And I might actually have something to show in my lab. Let's go take a look and see if I do. All right, and as I navigate over there, for those that don't have advanced endpoint analytics, then you're going to have something called application reliability in your portal. If you do have endpoint analytics, then device timeline, advanced device timeline is going to replace application reliability. And then let's see. Is it here? Also, there is an end-to-end latency of maybe up to 24 hours that that you will have. Let's see. Advanced timeline. Let me click on a device here. Let me click on this device. Okay, there it is, device timeline, right? So it's under, it is under the device scores tab, selected device, and then it's under device timeline, or the device timeline will be right there. And so I do have several things, right? That's good, different events, right? That will tell you what happened in terms of that device and key things. So you can look through and find out, hey, did something happen device timeline wise whenever an error started to pop up? We have a graph for you of what goes on. So glad that my device is actually showing in here so that you can see that we are collecting live data and so forth, right? Cool. All right, so here's just a graph or a screenshot that I captured in case I did not have live data to show you. And so on. There's also, and again, I quickly showed you device timeline. There's not a whole lot to do for you to configure it other than to wait for the data to start to show up. But so, that's why I spent most of the time in device query, but not to minimize it. It's a huge piece of Intune Suite, Advanced Analytics, and very, very useful to environments to be able to have that extra level of detail, right? Battery health. Now, in this case, you might not see this show up immediately. If you were to go ahead and acquire the Intune Suite, it may not show up, the data about battery health immediately. It could be a 48-hour lag after you buy your licenses to begin to see battery health, in your environment. Basically, this score helps identify any kind of systems that have, battery health issues and so forth. So here's it, right here in the portal, your overview and so on, right? Let me pull up my environment, and I don't think I'm going to have anything to speak of in here because all of mine are VMs, but still to show the situation. So battery health here is where it is. And we'll populate with a big fat nothing because again, I don't have any actual laptops, in my environment. And so, but still a very important thing. I mean, I have a laptop. Most of us have, laptops these days in business, right? That's pretty common. And I struggle with my battery. I've had to replace my battery a couple of times, over the years. And so being able to proactively identify a user that has a laptop that's starting to fail battery checks and different things is a really really useful thing for sure. Okay, so that really is a wrap of the session focused on advanced endpoint analytics. Definitely worth the look in Intune Suite for the capabilities it gives, the extra detail that is provided with endpoint analytics beyond what you get just normally. So we will put a bookmark here. We'll continue the series next time.